How did your family react to your conversion? And how should one deal with family when on the conversion program and when finishing conversion? My family is a very religious Christian family. Both my father and mother are very staunch Christians. My mother is actually a Christian missionary, and she has spent some time in Africa where she was spreading the gospel. She also has a very deep and profound love for the Jewish people, as many charismatic Christians have. A little known fact is that most of Israel's funding is from the charismatic church, mostly in the United States, but also the world over. My mother has visited Israel 3 times since I have started my conversion. Now, in South Africa, the Beit Din needs you to get permission from your parents to convert. Now, when I started my conversion in 2012, my father has unfortunately already passed at that time due to a long battle with cancer, and he died in 2010. So there was only my mother left to ask. Now, the way it normally works is you need to at least ask your parents 3 times to convert, as they would need to write a letter to the Beit Din that they have indeed been informed. This also shows the Beit Din that you are serious about conversion and that this is not just something that you're trying out. Now, when I first came to my mother to tell her to convert, I was actually living in Port Elizabeth at the time, and my mother stays in George. It's about 300 kilometers away. I decided to drive home for the weekend and speak with my mother face to face. Now, as I will post in my full conversion video, I've always been religious as a child, or always had a belief in God. But I've always had issues with Christianity, the Trinity theory, and it just didn't make sense to me. So this by no means caught my mother by surprise. When I got home, I sat my mother down, told her I've got something to tell her, and I started to explain her that I've obviously always had some issues with Christianity and the Trinity theory, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. And I have, after a lot of research, found that I can convert to Judaism, and this religion makes sense to me, and it's something that I believe in and that I feel very strongly about. I must say, to my mother's credit, she was very calm about it, and she said she knows that I've always had issues, but I should do her a favor. She's going to bring some priests to debate with me about Christianity and to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. Now, obviously, I want to keep my mother happy, and I was more than happy to debate, as I quite like debating. Now, my mother brought home a few priests on different occasions within that weekend, and I had a debate with these priests. Now, one thing about Christianity is that Christianity is never really attacked from within, meaning that there's not a lot of questions being asked directly to priests, and they're not very used to debating with their congregants. They often quoted me as a child when I had a lot of questions. They often just told me, you should believe as a child, as there's a verse that relates to this in the New Testament. Now that I'm already practically leaving Christianity, they were happy to debate with me. I basically asked them 2 questions to all the priests that I debated with. I told them that I want an honest answer, not their opinion or their feeling, but what is written and what they have studied. As most priests have studied 7 years theology in a theology school or university, and thus they do have a good background of the scriptures. My first question was that if Jesus is God, why did he pray to God? Why did he tell his disciples to wait there so that he can go pray? I told them that whenever someone prays, that person that is praying believes that he is lower than the person he's praying to. Otherwise, why would he pray? Also, when he was on the cross, he said, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Meaning that he felt laid down by God, which means he's not God. Now they tried different ways to maneuver around it, but none of them could give me a clear answer on this question. My second question dealt with God as a just God. And the way I positioned this question is that let's take Adolf Hitler. We can all agree that Adolf Hitler was not a great human being. He was a mass murderer. He killed 6 million Jews and 6 million other people in the war that he started. We can all agree this was not a good human being. Now, the way that I positioned this question to the priests was, obviously my mother was present, is if Hitler, on his deathbed, said that he believes in Jesus, he believes that Jesus died on the cross for his sins, and he really believes this. He's not joking about this. He believes this. Does he go to heaven or does he go to hell? They told me, like a choir, without any exceptions, that he will go straight to heaven because through the blood of Christ, he was saved. Told them this doesn't make a lot of sense because he did kill 12 million people in total and he's got a lot of sins against his name. Now he says one sentence, okay, believes it in his heart, and he goes straight to heaven. This is not a just God. I mean, if this was a normal court, a human court, then you wouldn't say this is a fair judge. If you kill 12 million people and you get off scot-free, you're starting to question the judge. Told them, but I hear what you're saying. I'm going to give you a different example. I lived in Saudi Arabia, where I was friends with a very observant Muslim. This guy works with people with disabilities, as I do. He's got only one wife. He's got 3 children. He prays 5 times a day. He eats according to what his book tells him to eat. Believes in one God. Doesn't murder. Doesn't steal. You know, basically living by some of the laws of the Torah. And is a general good human being. He even believes that Jesus is a prophet. But he does not pray to Jesus. Obviously. He only prays to God. And he obviously doesn't believe that Jesus died on the cross for his sins. Does this person go to heaven or to hell? Now they told me this is difficult and God will judge at the end of the day and who are we to judge? Told him according to the book, according to what you've learned, not according to what you are now feeling, according to what your book says. They told me it's difficult, but he's going to go straight to hell and burn for eternity. I told them, do you believe this is a just God? That will let a mass murderer go to heaven and let a guy that hasn't committed any murders and lived a basic good life go straight to hell? For this, not a single of these priests had any good answer to give me. In fact, they asked me, what is the Jewish opinion? I said, Jewish opinion is that God is a God of justice and is a righteous judge and a fair judge. If you did good in your life, but you are mostly wicked, you will be rewarded, as it says in the Torah, for the good you have done in this world, so that God does not have to reward you in the world to come. So, obviously Hitler is going straight to hell, because even though he did make teshuvah and he did repent in his last week, in this example, he did obviously not, but this is now just the example, then he will have to pay for 12 million people that he killed in the world to come. And the Muslim guy, it says that if this person is a righteous person, which most Muslims, I can tell you, is, they will go straight to heaven. Different heaven, but will still go to heaven. This is a just God. And that is basically how I dealt with my mother, who was present and saw that the priests didn't have good answers to my questions. And that I did have an answer that made more sense. So from there on, my mother was quite accepting of my conversion. She said, at least you're converting to Judaism, and she obviously loves the Jews, and she knows that we believe in God, and she wasn't too unhappy with my decision. So one thing that I would tell you out there that is watching this and that is maybe going through something similar, maybe you're not someone that likes to debate or get into confrontation, is explain to your family clearly, sit them down person to person and explain to them, why do you want to convert? Why do you want to make this massive life change? And just stick with that at that point in time. Tell them in detail why you want to convert. And then secondly, answer all the questions they have, because they're going to have a few questions. How's this going to impact their lives? How's it going to impact the relationship? And there is obviously a few things that change once you convert. One of the main things in Judaism is keeping kosher, which means that you abide by very strict kosher laws. You eat only kosher food, you only eat off kosher plates, you only use kosher cutlery, and you can only cook something that has been cooked by a Jew or where a Jew was involved in, which makes eating with family extremely difficult. This is something that was very difficult for my mother. So my mother is a very good cook, and she loves to cook. All mothers like to feed their children, and they feel like something's been taken away from them if they can't feed you. So you gotta find ways to make compromises. Obviously, my flat is fully kosher, and often my mother would visit here, and then I would let her cook for me, obviously supervising, and I'm always involved in the cooking process somehow to make sure that it abides by the kosher laws. I was also recently at my grandmother's 90th birthday, where there was a braai, which is like a barbecue. Now I could have brought my own meat to this barbecue, to this braai, and brought my own grit, and I could have eaten off paper plates, and it could have all worked out. But due to me being quite in Afrikaans culture, the culture I'm from, we're quite sensitive to family, and especially people older than us, and I didn't want to make a scene or stand out too much at this function, as it was my grandmother's 90th, and that is what this whole thing was about, and not about me being weird with my kosher stuff. So what I did is, I just came fashionably late, after everyone's eaten. I had drinks, Coca-Cola, everything is kosher, and it was fine. There was no issues. So there's always a way around the issue. And there's always a way that you can deal with it in a good, respectful way. And that is something that I have noticed from other converts, is sometimes they go to the extreme, They don't want to mix with the family. They cut their family off. I don't even think that's healthy. I think you need to spend time with your family. You need to show respect to your family. This is in many Jewish sources that says that a convert should still show respect to his family, that although his mother and father is no longer his spiritual mother and father, they are still your biological mother and father, and you should give them the due respect for all the years they spent bringing you up and basically making you the person you are today. The other issue with family is Shabbat. Now in South Africa, most things take place on either a Friday night or Saturday in the day, which is Shabbat. You can't travel on Shabbat. You can't carry outside a Eruv on Shabbat. There's many issues with Shabbat and family. So what I normally do is I explain the laws of Shabbat to my family. I explain to them that Shabbat is the cornerstone of Judaism. It's repeated 12 times within the Torah, that you shall keep the Sabbath, and that this is critical to me. As there's many functions that your family would like you to go to, but you just can't get there because of Shabbat restrictions. And this is something that you're just going to have to deal with, explain it well, and show people that events that you maybe can't be part of. Let's say it's a birthday party on Shabbat for someone in your family. And if you could obviously stay close to that house to get to that party, I mean, that's even better. But if you can't, then show up on the Sunday and, wish them a happy birthday, maybe explain them why you couldn't attend the day before. People, I have found, if you are relaxed with the way you are and the way you believe, people in general will also be relaxed about it. It's when you don't feel 100% comfortable with it, then people also are uncomfortable with it. The other thing is you got to know the answers to the questions people is going to ask you. That will put you in a better position to chat with people and also to share Judaism to the wider world. It says in the Torah that you will be a light among the nations, and you should spread this light. So you should definitely know kosher laws well. Why do you keep it? Why do you do it? Why can't you eat off my plates? Is it because my plate is dirty or whatever they would say? And you explain to them the laws around this. Also the same with Shabbos. Why can't you come to me for my birthday? I mean, it's a big birthday and everyone's coming. And why won't you come? Explain to them that Shabbat's very important. It's mentioned 12 times in the Torah. As a Jew, if you don't keep Shabbat, you will be cut from the Jewish nation. Tell them all this and tell them that you'll be there on another day, on a Sunday or whenever. And then you can have one-on-one time. And that's the way that I have generally handled things with my family. Also, try as best as you can to integrate your Jewishness, your new way of belief, your new way of living with your family. My mother has been to me many times since my conversion in Sea Point. She stayed in my flat, like I said, fully kosher. She's even been with me to shul to see what it's like. And most rabbis are pretty open about that. And just keep in mind that it is a different culture. It is strange to them. It's something that they're not used to. And as long as you explain to them well what it's about, why you're in it, the great benefits of Judaism. I mean, invite them for a Shabbos dinner where they can see everyone together, singing, the whole family vibe. I mean, I've got that from a lot of non-Jews that have told me that the thing that they like about Judaism the most is the family structure, how strong it is, the low divorce rate. Point to them the good things about Judaism, and not just always the I can't do this, you can't do that, because then it sounds like a very restrictive religion, where in fact all these things is put by Hashem in the Torah so that we should have a good life, and not that we should be annoyed. And that is actually the essence of all these mitzvot, is for us to, number one, be better people, and number two, be close to Hashem and cling to His words and His Torah. I hope you found this video informative, and please, in the comments below, if I left anything out or you want further clarity, please drop a comment below. Also tell me if you have been going through conversion, or if you had a similar chat with your family, how did it all go? Because I know from a lot of other converts that I've chatted to, unfortunately not all families is as supportive as my family, and there's often issues with conversion and family, and I just always try to find a way to make things work. I wish you all a great week ahead. May you continue to be blessed in everything that you do. Shavua Tov.